In this video, I'm going to be teaching you how to qualify for every Solo Victory Cup final in Chapter 2 Remix. I've used the tips and strategies in this video for 2 seasons straight and qualified for every Solo Victory Cup finals. And trust me, if an unk like me can do it, you definitely can too. These guides always take ages to make, so it would be highly appreciated if you did like and subscribe, as it's the best free way to support the channel. With all that waffling out the way, let's jump straight into the video. Firstly, before we get into any game plans, it's important to know what is actually required to qualify. This is what place you'll need to place on your region and how many points that will be. For the last couple of seasons, they've actually changed how many players qualify per region, but for Chapter 2 Remix, there's no changes and it's the exact same as Chapter 5 Season 4, meaning in EU, you'll need to place top 15,000 to advance, NA top 10,000, Brazil top 2,500, Middle East top 2,000, and OCE Asia top 1,500. And with everything being the same from last season, we can work out on average how many points we'll need this time around. On EU, you'll likely need 130 plus points, NA 110 plus, Middle East 120 plus, OCE 115 plus, Asia also 115 plus, Brazil 110 plus. This is only an estimate, guys. As we've gone back to OG, there may be way more players playing, which means the points will be higher. So please take with a pinch of salt and only use it as a baseline. Also, your goal should always be more than just scraping through, as it will result in more PR. But now you know how many points to qualify, you're probably asking how you get the points. First, we need to understand the point format and what you're actually rewarded for. Point format is the exact same as last season's, and you get 65 points for a win and 1 per elimination, which means you'd need to get 65 kills to equal 1 win, which is crazy because it's way over any kill record we've ever seen. This of course means the cup is really placement heavy and it favors passive players over aggressive players. It's safer to play for endgame for a bunch of points rather than dying in a fight for 1 elimination point. Due to this, late starting is almost impossible too now. Historically, it was strong because you could drop more kills and they were more rewarding. But now by the time you start, someone could have had 2 decent endgames and be nearly qualified. Right, so now you're in the battle bus for your first game, what do you do? As we said previously, the most important thing is getting a win. If you were to get a 0 kill win, this would already be over half the points needed to qualify. Not only that, but getting an early win in a tournament is a great boost for your mentality. You're going to have better morale and confidence. Therefore, play better in your next games. Whereas we all know what it feels like to start a tournament bad, it can ruin your whole tournament. Secondary to this, the next best thing to get is kills. Although 1 point, they still make a big difference, which is why you often see pros at the top of the leaderboard, because they're so good at fighting and drop a lot of kills. This is when knowing what playstyle you are makes a huge difference. If you're an aggressive player who's good at fighting and is always seeing success W keying, then you should look to take a lot of fights and get the majority of your kills in this game, as the first games are generally easier lobbies. Whereas if you are a passive player and find most of your success playing for endgame and you're not that confident fighting, then it's okay to play for the win. And it should be easy to do first game because it's generally dead, as everyone else is W keying, meaning there will be no storm surge, so you can play with 0 damage, aka just camping and hiding. The benefits of doing this is you'll have max mats and heals going into endgame, so you're guaranteed a better placement. First game is very important as it's going to dictate the rest of your tournament a lot. If you win or have a really good game, you're going to be in high elo, which is a low percentage on the leaderboard. I class this as top 1 to 2%, which in solo victories is normally around top 1,000. If this is you, your next games are going to be much harder. The opponents are going to be way better and the lobbies are going to be more stacked, most requiring storm surge. If you try to continue W keying in these lobbies, the fights are going to be really long because you're playing against other good players, which means there's more chance of third parties, but also you're going to use more resource like builds and heals. This will make the rest of your game scuffed and you likely probably won't even get to endgame, meaning you get no placement points. Instead, everyone should play passive in these lobbies, playing for endgame. However, as I mentioned, there will be storm surge concerns. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking they need to get into full fights to get storm surge. No, you don't, especially in solos where you don't need a lot of damage. In these stack games, through good rotates, positioning, and refarming, you should be able to go into endgame with good mats, which is going to get you way better placement. In these endgames where there's so many players, you're going to use a lot of materials, so make sure you don't leave getting a refresh too late. As with all seasons, you shouldn't even really waste time going into endgame without rotation. This is called good game and time management. It's basically ensuring you don't just spend loads of time in your game scuffed to get minimal points. We've all had them games where you're about 20 minutes in just before endgame and you end up dying and only receive a few points. This isn't as bad in 3-hour tournaments like Duo Cash Cups, but in 2-hour tournaments like the Solo Victory Cup, this can be devastating. Having a big game and then consistently getting end games in the games after should mean you are already qualified or very close. However, let's now get into what to do if the complete opposite happens and you have a bad start to the tournament and can't get that big game. There's two completely different ways of getting back into the tournament and qualifying. The first being to keep going for this big pop-off game until you get it. However, the risk of this is you keep dying and burn through your games and it never comes. However, the benefits is if you do it in just the one game, you will fly up the leaderboard, and then in the following games you can build on this. The other technique is just to stay patient but be consistent and slowly creep back into the leaderboard. An example of this would be being in low elo but knowing you have about 3 or 4 good games you can play out. If you do fairly well in each one, you'll be able to qualify. You're not going to shoot up the leaderboard, but this can actually be beneficial as the lobbies are going to be worse with easier players and less stacked games. Mentality is one of the most important things in these solo victory cups because, as you know, solos is the most stressful game mode in Fortnite, but you can use this to your advantage. If you keep a cool head whilst everyone else is raging, you're going to have the upper hand. If you're always in this blame mentality where you're always blaming the game or your teammates, you're never actually going to take accountability for your own mistakes and improve. It's the same sort of thing when the majority of you die to a player evidently much worse than yourself and immediately start saying how bad they are. But instead you should be working out how a bad player managed to kill you. Were you making stupid peaks or did you take a 50-50? The number one thing to improve is to fix your mistakes, not only in Fortnite but everything. So as soon as you escape this excuse mindset and start fixing what you're doing wrong, then you will see massive improvement. You may not be making excuses, but you might have a negative mindset which is equally as bad. If something happens out of your control, like a game crash, are you going to let it ruin that one game or your whole tournament? One of the best ways to fix this negative mindset is to really start focusing on improving your perspective. For example, if you have a bad start to a cash cup, instead of thinking it's going to be bad all the way through, instead change your perspective and start thinking of the benefits. You're going to be in low elo against worse players and you're not going to need anything like Storm Surge, and the game's going to be less stacked, so you can actually get really high point games and make a comeback. Even if you overall do have a bad tournament and don't manage to make the comeback, instead of being really negative and thinking you're finished, have the perspective that you made a load of mistakes, which is loads to learn and improve from. Even if you aren't confident in your own ability, you can use something called false confidence. This is where you persuade your mind that you're much better than you really are. You've probably heard the saying, fake it till you make it. In Fortnite terms, it's doing stuff like saying you're the best player in the lobby. Even if it's not real confidence, it has been shown to boost performance by several studies. Dismissing pressure can also be a great way to stay calm. You just need to think, what's the worst that can happen? You don't qualify for a Fortnite Cup, so what? A lot of you have probably already experienced this when you're in a tournament and you just go into don't care mode and you start playing reckless, but you actually start running through players. It makes sense because you're always going to play better calm, but that's also how you're used to playing in ranked and creative. It can be very beneficial if you identify your mistakes at the end of each game so you don't make the same mistakes in the following games. When you start to rage in Fortnite, you start playing emotional, which is the opposite of being locked in. Like when attempting to fix anything bad, one of the first things you should do is identify your triggers. It's really hard to fix your mentality without knowing what the causes are because you don't know the necessary steps to fix it. This is why troubleshooting exists within PCs, because you could spend hundreds on trying to fix the issue but never find the right resolution. Once you have found your individual triggers, it's then time to start fixing that. Unfortunately, there's no easy fix for all, as everyone's different and you just need to find what works for you through trial and error. But some examples I have seen work is going in cool with friends, chewing gum, listening to music, taking deep breaths, or straight away doing an action. It could be saying a word, or it could be going up to get some water, or dropping down and doing some push-ups. These fixes will be even more effective if you just reduce your overall stress levels. You could do this by getting good quality sleep, having a nutritious diet, and working out. If you found this video helpful, then please like and subscribe, as it's the best free way to support the channel and I really do appreciate it. I'd also recommend turning on notifications because I've got way more content coming this season and you do not want to miss it. Comment solos if you made it all the way to the end of the video so I can thank my loyal viewers, and I'll catch you guys hopefully in the next video.